Welcome to Hardscrabble, the house that Grant built. In 1856, Ulysses S. Grant built this log cabin on the 80 acres of land given to him as a wedding present from his father-in-law, Frederick Dent. Hardscrabble was the first house that Ulysses and Julia ever owned and lived in for only 3 months. The cabin was divided into 4 rooms, 2 upstairs and 2 downstairs, with a hall running between them on both floors. This cabin has had many homes. It was first moved in 1891 to Old Orchard, part of Webster Groves, Missouri. The home was then put on display in Forest Park during the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair. And in 1907, August A. Bush purchased Hardscrabble and rebuilt it on the land where it stands today, the land once owned by Ulysses S. Grant. General Grant, what led you to West Point and how well did you do?
My father came up with the idea of West Point Military Academy, and I really didn't want anything to do with it. I was just so happy at home, and I was hoping I wouldn't get appointed. But the day came, and my father told me that I was appointed to the academy and be prepared. I entered the academy in 1839, and even when I went to the academy, I heard that Congress was talking about closing West Point Military Academy. So any chance I could, I'd read the newspapers hoping that they would close the academy before I could go back home to my daily duties that I've had fun when I was a young boy, but that never happened. Well, I was very, very good with the horses and all, and decided I just had to study and make the best of it. Well, 4 years passed fairly quickly, but I was good in mathematics, but in our graduation class, I was actually only 21 out of the 39 and all, and I was really wanting to join the Dragoons. The Dragoons was a cavalry unit at the time, but during West Point, who had the highest grades got the first choice. And of course, the Dragoons filled up quickly. And the only thing that was left was the infantry at the time. I have a lot of good memories, made a lot of good friends there. But it wasn't one of my favorite times of my life.
What did you do after West Point?
Well, after West Point, of course, after graduation, I became a lieutenant, and I was transferred to St. Louis, a place called Jefferson Barracks, South St. Louis area, and that was my station at the time.
How did you meet Julia Dent?
My wife, Julia. I was a roommate with her brother, Frederick Dent. And I promised that I would stop by and look in on the family when I got back to St. Louis. And when I did that, I was invited one Sunday for a Sunday chicken dinner. And, you know, barracks food really wasn't that good. And I took them up on it. And I rode over from Jefferson Barracks to a place where the Dents lived called Whitehaven. Mr. Dent called Whitehaven from a place that was from England. But I can remember that day. I had a fine time. The Dents had a large family. It's something I missed since I left Ohio. I've been in the military all the time and had a grand time. And I made several trips back upon their invitation. But one day I met Julia, and I fell in love with her instantly. But I'm not for sure if she fell in love with me right away, but I would come back over from Jefferson Barracks and we'd go for rides, and I decided one day that I'm going to ask her to marry me. So I did. And she says, Ulysses, she said, I'll accept maybe an engagement for a while, but I'm not sure about this marriage thing. Well, I knew that over time this would change. But you know, I can remember too, her father wasn't too happy about me falling in love with his daughter. He actually tried to want me to go and court his younger daughter. And Julia was kind of the princess of the family. She's just finishing school, and I was determined that eventually I could get her to accept my proposal for marriage.
And when did you finally end up marrying Julia?
Finally married her, it was in 1848, and that's another story, if you don't mind me bringing up, and it's been in the newspaper quite a bit. My father, Jesse Root Grant, you know, he was definitely anti-slavery, and the Dents had slaves at the time. And when we got married here in St. Louis, my parents actually wouldn't even come to the wedding because of the issue of slavery. But I do remember the wedding, a place that a person that a lot of people realized it was General Longstreet. General Longstreet, I fought on the battlefield, and he thought he was with Robert E. Lee, but General Longstreet was a cousin to Julia Dent, and he was there at the time of the wedding.
Tell me about the first 4 years that you were away from Julia and your family.
Well, the first 4 years after we got married, I was in the 4th U.S. Infantry. And I was transferred to first to Sackett, New York, and then to Detroit, Michigan. And Julia would come up and visit as often as she could, and she tried to live up in that area, but she did miss home. And for the last about a year and a half, almost 2 years, she's lived at Whitehaven.
Tell me about Whitehaven and how you earned a living after resignation from the military.
Well, we moved back to Whitehaven, and I tried some farming and all with not too much results with it. And then Julia had another cousin named Harry Boggs, and he was in real estate in St. Louis, and he offered me a job, or more of a partnership, and I accepted. Julia talked me into it, and I lived in St. Louis for a while. I was making a trip before that. It was about 12 miles one way. And we decided to move. We moved to, I think the address was 625 on Lynch Street, and Julia moved with me at the time. But I still had a hard time on collecting fees and dealing with the general public on monies and all, and decided that Harry Boggs and myself decided it just wasn't enough business to support both families. So I resigned from the company.
Did you build this home, and how did it get its name, Hardscrabble?
I sure did build this home. I decided that it just wasn't right for me to live at the home at Whitehaven with Julia's family, so I decided to build this cabin here. And 3 of my friends helped me. First, we cut the logs that was right here on this property, and you can see on the logs itself, on the axe marks, that's called hewing, which we actually take the logs and square them, and we're able to stack them and on. I was quite proud of this home, and I can actually remember the first time I brought my wife Julia here to show her the completion of the home, and she didn't say anything, but I could see on her face of some disappointment, but it disappeared like she was trying to please me. And she said, "Sam," she called me Sam, and she said, "Sam, this'll work. This is a fine home." And she wound up putting some curtains up and some furnishings, and in short time she seemed to enjoy it. But the name of Hardscrabble that you addressed, Hardscrabble is a name for hard times, and at the time we were having a hard times.
Tell me about the slave William Jones.
William Jones, he was a 35-year-old man that was pretty much assigned to me, and we actually became friends. But I do remember, even with the hard times and all, I did free William. Probably at the time, William, with the market of slavery, was worth probably $1,000, and that's a lot of money considering that a merchant or a banker may make $150 to $200 a year, but I thought it was the right thing to do.